made you want to start a distillery, correct? Your distillery.
So I guess what happened was I actually started a brewery right after college. So I was actually was the co-founder of a small craft brewery in San Diego. At the time, we are the smallest craft brewery in San Diego. We started, um, I guess we called it nano brewing back then. There's microbreweries, which were generally between like 8 to 30 barrels per batch. We were doing 1.6 barrels per batch, so we are doing like a very small amount. In retrospect, is kind of ridiculous, but the startup cost, it costs less than $30,000 to get the company started. So it's like a very inexpensive way to start a brewery. So I started that company with this guy named Mike Hess. The brewery is called Mike Hess. I just graduated college. It was 2009. There were no jobs at that point. That was during the Great Recession, 2007 to whenever it ended a few years later. But so I started the company then. I really enjoy making beer, but I was always more of a whiskey drinker. Like I made beer in college with my buddies because one of my roommates' dads was a home brewer, and then we started home brewing. Just kind of got into it. Mike Hess was the guy I was actually working for at a financial firm, Raymond James Financial. They're just like a big 401k company.
Gotcha.
Then graduated, didn't really have a job opening of it. Like there's nothing that really was I wanted to do. Couldn't really find a job. So I was like, went back to Mike and I was like, hey, uh, let me like keep working for you over the summer because I just graduated. I still had a lease going in San Diego. And while we're there, we kind of, this guy, Ben, his partner, showed us this nano brewing concept. And it was like kind of big up in like Portland and Seattle, where
Gotcha.
it seems like craft stuff generally kind of starts in the Northwest and works its way
Right.
across
Yeah. So where
the West.
I'm from, obviously Michigan. Went to school at Western Michigan University.
Mm-hmm.
Kalamazoo has Bell's that runs out of
Yep.
that, and then pretty sure Founders is headquarters in Grand Rapids. Like Grand Rapids is what the microbrew capital of the country or the Midwest or something like that, right? There's
Yeah.
so many microbrews there. So it's how did you find a way? Because a lot of people that listen, I'm sure I've had tons of buddies being from Kalamazoo or going to school in Kalamazoo that have tried to start, brewing or brew beer by themselves, or I've had. How did you find a way to, $30,000 isn't bad for a startup cost, right? It's fairly cheap in
It's super,
relative aspect,
yeah,
but how
incredibly
did
cheap.
you,
Yeah.
develop that?
Hmm. I mean, so basically how he worked it was Mike was already renting an office. It was like a three offices, conference room, reception, all this stuff. So it was way overkill for what his business needed because really just him, his partner, and then like he'd have an intern. So we downgraded, we went from like an office space to just little, it was we call them like incubator warehouses. They're like, 800 to a couple thousand square feet warehouses where you just, start your company at really cheap rent. Um, so it had two offices, it had a warehouse. So basically he was doing his 401k company and I was in charge of figuring out, all the licensing stuff. So I had to go through and figure out the process of, how to get a operation legally going through, like we had to go through the federal level, state level, all the Department of Health and all that fun stuff.
How'd you like that? Because in retrospect, paperwork sucks. Like it sucks.
Yeah, not a fan. But generally speaking, most of the federal agencies are really easy to deal with. The local ones, not so much. Strangely enough, like the feds are actually easier with the alcohol than the local people are. Because the feds just want your money at the end of the day, I think. Where local people are regulating like drinking at certain times.
Yeah.
You have to every pretty much any permit that you apply for gets contested by the police, and then you have to go and like feed your case to them. And then there's all the fire hazard stuff.
Sell
I don't
into
know. It's paperwork's not my favorite thing, but it's easy. It's just a matter of sitting down doing it, and if you do something wrong, they'll call you or they'll email you and tell you, you got to change this or do
so
that. So it's not too bad.
would you, you doing the brewery, how long did you do that for? How many years?
Like four, about
Four
four.
years.
Yeah.
What point did you now from the brewery? I want to know, what point were you like, this isn't for me, I want to go? Did you jump right into trying to come up with a distillery, or did you have a buffer period where it's like, I want to try something new, and then go, I want to get back into making drinks, but I don't want to do a brewery anymore. I want to do a distillery. How did that process and
Mhm.
transition work for you?
No, I knew before I left the brewery. I'd already been writing the business plan for the distillery for a year or so by the time I left. So I was just ready. I wasn't the only. I wanted to own my own business. I was, not a big stakeholder in the company. So I basically took the money I made off of the brewery and left. I found a warehouse in 2013, signed a lease for it, and then that's when I left the brewery just to work full time on the distillery. So that was like by March or something of 2013. I think I had my federal license by July. Then it took about a year and change to get all the infrastructure in, like building permits, build out, get the equipment, all that fun stuff. Design the brand, design the recipes. So we're up and running by September 28th of 2014 when we officially like launched the company. So that was a little over 6 years ago now.
Gotcha. When you get, to get up and running and you're finally at that point, you know, obviously you have to start at it's almost like ground zero, right? It's like you have to create a name for yourself. You have to give people a reason to choose your product over another whiskey, or you guys had a brandy on your site, right? Um, and so what were you doing to help separate yourself, right? What marketing tactics were you doing, especially being a new business? I think a lot of people forget about the fact that you can't just, it's not as easy just to drop thousands of dollars into marketing. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of grind work, where you going to liquor stores and like, hey, try, let me put this on a shelf. Let me see if this sells in your store. What exactly, how did you attack that aspect of the business once you were ready to go?
Yeah, so it was just a matter of, creating. So our first product we called it was a southwestern style gin. And so since we're a San Diego based company, my thoughts behind that were if we can do something that's kind of speaks to the cuisine of the region. And if you're in San Diego, tacos and burritos are kind of like what you eat, some Mexican cuisine. So our gin's got cucumber, lime, cilantro, sage, juniper, coriander. I really should have thought about this, and I should have shipped you a bottle or something like that. That would have been a smarter way to do this. We could
That's
have
okay.
actually had a
We'll
cocktail.
do a little product exchange. I'll get you a sweatshirt. I'll take a bottle for a
Mhm.
sweatshirt.
There we go.
Yeah, so that's great. That sounds wonderful. Gin always intrigues me because I don't know if you ever watched the show Peaky Blinders. Great show. And it's
Yeah,
about old time, right? Old England, and Prohibition America. So as an English gangster, he's like, how are we gonna make more money? Why don't I just ship gin over to the Americans to sell during the Prohibition era,
yeah,
right? And so it's always been interesting and really finding that balance, right? Gin's more of a balanced drink, right? You need to have a balance of like your berries or your cilantro, whatever you're using in it. So it's not
yeah.
overpowering the alcohol, but there's still flavor packed behind it.
hmm Yeah, so I mean, that gin was the first one I developed. I developed that recipe actually like in my backyard in a little home pot still I had um, before we bought the giant German machine. That's where we developed all the other recipes. But I knew that gin would it scales up pretty well. Other stuff not so much because with gin we're just doing a straight pot distillation. Everything else we're doing through the column, which I didn't have a column on my home still, so I couldn't have done column distillation anyways. Yeah, so yeah, just creating that balanced recipe is hard. Even like I would say our first 7 commercial batches, we were still dialing in the recipe. Like we didn't really find exactly what we liked up until batch 7, and we're still always kind of experimenting a little bit here and there, just a tiny little tweak. Um, but at the end of the day, it's like distilling is very scientific, but it's just like cooking. You
Right.
can you can know the science behind cooking, but sometimes there's just people that are better cooks no matter what. So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Now, you said you were more of a whiskey drinker. So why did you
Mhm.
choose to do gin first?
Gin's just the easiest product to get out on a shelf, the least expense. The whiskey you got to sit on it for at least a year, and that's not really long enough. If you want to have a 53-gallon barrel aged whiskey, 3 years is probably the minimum you're going to want to do. There's guys doing stuff in small barrels, and we've experimented with that, but it still never tastes like as good as the big barrel stuff, in my opinion. It's fun to do like experiments in those, but at the end of the day, I think having things in 53-gallon barrels or more makes a difference. So that's what we like to do. We like to sit on our whiskeys. So we've got some whiskeys that are 5 years old now that are getting ready to get released, and we're always putting more stuff away. But so like our initial core lineup was like a gin, a rum, and a coffee liqueur. And then we've done like a couple special batch releases of whiskey. But yeah, overall it's just like we're just doing like the white spirits for the most part. And then just some like random barrel aged stuff that we've been releasing here and there. But it's just an expense thing, you know. It's putting whiskey away. Every barrel is around costs a little over $1,000 just to make the barrel, and then you know you got to sit on it for 5 years. So it's a huge capital expenditure just to sit on it. It's worth it because once you have it, then you can make your money back,
Right.
35, 60 fold on top of it. But you know it takes a little while. So
I pay good money for a nice whiskey.
oh yeah. I paid too much money for some bottles of whiskey. I was just at a store actually, and there was $5,000 bottle of whiskey there. I was like, oof.
That's intense. Most
Yeah.
I ever spent, I bought a for when I graduated college, I bought it was actually on a tequila, Don Julio Real. So it was like $450 for the bottle.
Oh man.
It was it was good. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Yeah. I hope so. It'd be unfortunate if it wasn't good.
Gone
Yeah.
too soon, honestly. But it's always interesting when you start getting into pricing like that, because eventually it's like, how much of a difference am I tasting for it to be worth that, right? I think a lot of
Yeah.
people ask themselves that. And then I also think another huge thing is, I don't know, maybe you can debunk this, but a lot of people feel like the more you pay, in a sense, the nicer the alcohol, obviously. But the nicer the alcohol, a lot of people feel less hangovers and stuff from drinking nicer alcohol. I don't know if that's them convincing themselves that, hey, I had a nice bottle last night, there's no way I'm hungover, or you think there's actually some truth to that?
There's some truth to that. Especially, yeah, no, there's definitely some truth to that because I mean, a cleaner distillation, you're gonna have less congeners, and congeners are things that can have like methanol and acetaldehyde and these chemicals that will give you a much gnarlier hangover, like fusel oils and stuff like that. So there is something to be said about that. And there's also something to be said, the more you pay for something, the more you enjoy it. There's been like studies about wine where give people the same wine, but just tell them it costs different amounts of money. You could have like a $20 bottle, tell them it's worth 400. They don't like a lot more thinking it's a $400 bottle than if it was 20, even if it's the exact same bottle. Just psychology. People, if they know there's value behind it, your endorphins are going to go off a little bit more. Your serotonin levels are going to raise a little bit more.
I think it's
So
just wanting to, like, yeah, it's wanting that belief of like, yeah, it was worth what I spent. It was like,
mhm.
like, I'm not getting ripped off.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, to a certain degree, it's that. And yeah, I mean, like most things, it's not like the actual cost of the whiskey was that much more. It's just scarcity. It's like the
Right.
market will bear what people are willing to pay. So it's like, yeah, if you can, there's guys out there that want to spend $5 grand on whiskey. You know, the stores in Malibu, obviously, there's people around Malibu with that kind of cash. You know, you're probably not going to see a $5,000 bottle of whiskey at a store in San Bernardino or somewhere like that. Like, but Malibu makes sense. There's some dudes with some money out there.
Right. And how, yeah. So how do you think, or at least I guess I would really like your perspective, how COVID's affected the alcohol industry? Because there's really two ways to look at it, right? In my opinion, and that's alcohol industry has either gone down a little bit due to the fact that people can't go out or are going out less to drink.
Yeah.
Then for someone like you who, which I don't know your business exactly, right? As far as your plan, but if you're more of an at-home or purchase in store, right, then be on the shelf of a bar, has your business been doing better?
So we probably lost 90% of our restaurant business this year, you know?
Right.
um, and it's going to be devastating. I've got so many of my favorite bars and restaurants are gone forever now. Um, it's just, yeah, it's COVID's killed it. But fortunately for us, people are still drinking. Like people don't stop drinking just because they can't go out to a bar. So our off-premise sales have increased enough to pretty much cover like what we lost at restaurants, which is fortunate. And we're lucky because a lot of distilleries are pretty much just like you come into the distillery and sell it to the consumer that way. Like
Right.
I visited a distillery out in Arizona the other day, and he's down 75% this year because he can't run his tasting room like he used to. Like so, it's just you can only have 4 or 5 people in there at a time instead of 30 or 40, and his hours are reduced, and people just aren't going out as much because of COVID. So yeah, luckily we've got online store, and we've got 300 or 400 liquor stores around California that sell us. So
Right. Where are you mainly distribute at? What restaurants were you distributing at? So you're in San Diego, right? So
yeah.
where were you? Were you in the city? I know I go to PB a lot. So like I don't
Mhm.
know any bars over on the strip in PB.
There are a couple. There's like a tiki bar out there that carried us. A place called Water Bar. That's like a pretty neat spot right on the
Okay.
ocean there. Miss B's Coconuts. Yeah, there's a handful of bars out there. PB's beach bars are always different for craft stuff. Generally, beach bars are less crafty per se. It's more
Right.
like downtown where there's like nice restaurants and cocktail bars, or like North Park, South Park, like places. People going to the beach. Generally, you're just looking for like hang out by the beach, drink a easy drink or whatever.
Right.
But that's starting to change. Like you're starting to see like Water Bar or um, these places that were like they're beachy, but they're still doing really good cocktails. Or that wasn't always the case a couple of years ago. And it's cool to see the cocktail scene has been really changing over the last 7 or so years. It's gotten a lot more crafty, I guess.
Yeah.
But consumers still aren't there yet. I don't think people don't know about craft spirits as much as they know about craft beer. That's for sure.
Well, and
So,
I think that it's getting there. Like you said, I think it is getting there. I think
yeah.
in my latest one of my latest articles that I released uh, is a wish list for items, and two of my hot items that I wanted were cocktail spheres
Hmm.
and a cocktail shaker set, a new shaker set
Yeah.
for everything, right? Because it's becoming with popularity growing in more distilleries and microbrews and places that it's less big name, right? It's less like I just want a
Hmm.
Jack and Coke, and more people are like, yo, how do I throw this together to make a cocktail?
Yeah.
Right? A lot of places like yours, right? You have an option for cocktails, and you guys have a set of cocktails on there that you recommend. Correct? Correct me if I'm
Hmm.
wrong on the website.
Yeah, we've got a good cocktail list for sure.
Yeah, right. And so like by having that provided, I think cocktails are growing. And so that's great. What is your favorite cocktail?
My favorite cocktail, I've got a few. The one I make the most is a gin Ricky, which is, I mean, it's almost more of a mixed drink than a cocktail. Honestly, it's just lime juice shaken with gin, poured over ice, and topped with soda water. But it's with my San Miguel gin. It's like one of my favorite things to drink. To go a little like more fancy, Last Words probably up there for me. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but that's a fantastic cocktail. It's equal parts maraschino liqueur, gin, lime juice, and green chartreuse. It's like man, it was like a prohibition era cocktail, like 1928 Philadelphia Sporting Club. Really
Okay.
good cocktail. Other go-to of mine, I love Negronis. I love bees knees. I drink a lot of gin cocktails, honestly. Like if I'm gonna drink whiskey, like I like an old fashioned every once in a while, but if I'm gonna drink whiskey, I'd rather drink like it more, the nice Scotch,
Right.
straight, like just nothing in it, just straight Scotch,
On
like
a
a good
rock.
bourbon or something like that.
Right.
There are a lot of good whiskey cocktails out there. Penicillin's a great one. Yeah, old fashioned, obviously.
I've been getting experimental. I use so like gin, especially when I was doing gin, I'm like a lot of them use berries and stuff and
Hmm.
and their gins, and I was like, what would taste good with that? And I think the best one I had recently is I took some LaCroix, or it might have been off-brand LaCroix, right? Like just some
Yeah,
club soda. Uh,
sparkling.
mixed it, shot of gin, um, probably 2 shots of club soda, and topped it off with a herbal tea.
That's
And
pretty cool. Yeah.
yeah, honestly, it tasted great. It tasted phenomenal. And the tea, I got non-caffeinated tea because I don't need to be all vodka Red Bulled up. Or
Yeah.
but it was delicious, right? And I think that's the fun in experimenting. I think that's why a lot of people get into, um, like I said, doing distilleries. And a lot of men, especially 25 to 35, really like doing their own little brew operation in their garages, right? They like being able to mess
Hmm.
with the flavors and seeing if they can do it better. Uh, and how many times did you have to fail at a recipe until you were like, especially when you were making it in college and stuff like that, until you finally like, all right, I'm getting good at this. Because I know I so like cooking, right? You compared it to cooking, and I tried to make salsa from scratch. And after a full day of 5 hours trying to make salsa from scratch, it just tasted like ass. It really did. It did not taste good. And I stopped, right? At some points, like, is this worth my time or can I just go buy it? And at what
Hmm.
point did how many times do you have to fail to really get to that point of like, I'm getting good at this, or what really motivated you through that time of failure?
Um, yeah, I mean, I've been cooking my entire life. I brewed for a long time. And Mike was a great brewer, so he taught me a lot. By the time I got to liquor, I was pretty well versed on like how to design recipes and doing everything by weight. And I was a biochem major for 2 years, so I understand chemistry and all that. So for me, the hardest product to make was actually our coffee liqueur. That one took forever. But that was more because I was trying all sorts of wacky approaches to making it, like distilling the coffee, infusing the coffee with ethanol, making huge batches of espresso, like doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And eventually, the recipe that came out the best and worked the best ended up being like one of the simplest ones to do. So it's pretty much just like cold brew coffee, our 165 proof rum, and then the sugarcane juice we make the rum from. Oh, I just lost you. There we go.
Oh, good.
I think my Zoom's trying to update right now or something weird like that. I don't know why.
I still got you. I can still see you.
Yeah. Oh, wait, here. I think I figured it out. Okay.
So coffee liqueur is interesting. Now, a big thing that I heard that's coming around, which I think in itself is a little interesting, and I actually first heard about it off. I don't know if you ever watched that show, Moonshiners, where they're just in
Yeah.
the it's doing crazy shit. The one dude off that show, what's his name? Tickle,
Hmm.
figure out a way to brew THC with his moonshine. I thought
Yeah.
it was an interesting concept. And do you think um, you see more people, it's fairly new. Do you think you'll see people doing that a lot, especially now? California's had, legalized marijuana for what,
Oh
10 years,
wow.
something like that, a
Hmm.
while, right?
Yeah.
And
Oh
so,
wow.
like, and now federally, a lot of the countries like, yo, this is ridiculous to have
Hmm.
marijuana be illegal. So, do you think that's a potential opening in the market?
Oh yeah. It's super easy to make a THC tincture with high proof ethanol. Yeah. I mean, my buddy lived in Granada. He was going to like St. George's little veterinary school down there, and they made this stuff called Dragon, where they take high proof rum, throw a bunch of weed in it, and let it soak for a few days, and pull it out, and you've got you know THC ethanol. So you can make tinctures out of it. It's very easy to extract ethanol or THC with ethanol. So I don't think that's. I mean, there's already companies do. I saw a company in Colorado already doing it. Currently, you can't get it approved in terms of because we have to get formula approval from the federal government,
Yeah.
and they're not going to approve THC in a alcoholic beverage yet. But I'm going to say it's not outside the realm of possibilities by any means. Yeah, I'm down with it. Sounds good.
Yeah. Why not, right?
Yeah.
I always thought it's interesting because a lot of people complain about being, in lack of better terms, crossfaded, right? I thought it
Mhm.
was just an
Yeah.
interesting concept to
Yeah.
think, yeah, let's get people double fucked up.
Yeah. There's some people don't like. Yeah. Some people don't like being crossfaded. Some people do. Um, if somebody wants to, it's their choice. It's not like nobody's gonna be
Yeah.
forcing you to drink a THC cocktail.
Right.
I think there's actually a book about that out now, THC cocktails, which would be pretty interesting. Um,
Being around alcohol a lot, do you find yourself drinking it more, or do you think you're around it so much that you actually enjoy breaks from it?
I don't know. I always like alcohol. I've always, since I discovered it, I've never stopped. So I like it. Yeah. I never thought it'd be my business. Honestly, that kind of just fell into my lap, so to speak, with being a home brewer and meeting Mike at the 401k company. Because if that hadn't happened, there's no way I'd be making. I don't think I would have started a distillery. That was never even slightly on my mind, I think. So it just kind of like came about through happenstance.
Gotcha.
But no, I don't know. I try to regulate. It's easy in the industry, especially when bars are open, to go out and, you know, people know you around town if you're a local distiller and people want to buy you shots and stuff. So it can become pretty dangerous sometimes when you go out. But yeah, but it's a fun industry, and I try and be responsible as much as I can. Not
all,
always.
all in good fun. Now, I mean, you had a business partner and you have Old Harbor. Did you decide to go the business partner route again, or are you solely the only person that's running the joint?
I mean, I'm the only person. I have an investor, but I run the place. I have a director of operations and a sales person, a couple salespeople, and marketing person, and a design firm. But how alcohol works in California is you have to sell through a distributor, so they're like your sales network as well. So they've got like 38 salespeople in San Diego and 38 something in LA and San Francisco, and so they kind of they you're paying them 27 to 35% depending on what your contract's like, to basically like they're the sales team per se for you. So you're kind of contracting that out, kind of. They also have to sell, all their other spirits as well.
Right.
But it's a lot, At least there's people out on the street doing part of the job for you, anyways. So
Yeah. Do you think your experience having a business partner um, and obviously no offense to your business partner in any way, but I think do you think having that experience deters you or help you make a decision um, to just really run something yourself, or was it just the sole fact that you just wanted to run something yourself?
I think I wouldn't be opposed to getting out. I've actually considered. I'm thinking about next year bringing some like investors on as well, and maybe like we've talked. I've always thought about bringing on a business partner. It had to be a very good strategic business partner, though. Um, so still, there's nothing wrong with the business partners. There's a lot of stuff to do in a business. I would not mind being able to share that load. Totally.
I definitely understand. I just brought someone on not too long ago to my team just because eventually it gets tough, right? It definitely, when you're constantly have to juggle everything on your plate, it's tough. There's no easy way to do it, right? There's no easy way. There's always something to be done, and I think a lot of people, that start small stuff, and I was even guilty of it. I started a small clothing company when I was going through school, right? And being 19, starting it, my priorities didn't lie in getting a clothing company up and going. It lied more in like, damn, I always got to do shit for this. I'd rather go hang out with my friends and
Mhm.
and yeah, I think it's definitely a smart move. And do you have certain growth points that help you point to those decisions, or is it just, do you think it's more of an internal compass where you're like, okay, I think it's time for this?
Uh, a little bit of both. Like we're pretty much to the point where we've got California covered. So the goals for next year are to expand nationally and internationally. We're already talking to a Canadian importer, and then looking at probably trying to get into a handful of other states besides, like, right now we're in 38 states through shipping, but we don't have like boots on the ground in that many states. But that's the goal, obviously. But that takes a lot of money to do that. So
Right.
I'm either gonna have to get a big bank loan or bring on some more investors. I'm not sure. I'm debating about
How to
which
make money.
route I want to go at this point. So
Now, how much of that, your business do you think relies on the fact that I looked at your guys' bottle, right? Your bottle's super cool. Almost has like, it's like frosted black glass, right?
yep.
From what it looks like. And it has that old time feel, something you would probably see bar 1910 or something like that.
Yeah.
How much do you think when customers go to purchase, uh, it's dependent on strictly the look of your bottle?
I mean, studies show, I mean, with wine anyways, it's probably a little different with liquor. But I haven't seen studies on liquor, but something around 75 to 80% of consumers don't know what they want when they go in to buy something. They just know, like, I want a gin or I want a vodka or I want a rum. Half the time they don't really know. I mean, but also, most people tend to buy the first thing that comes in their head. That's why, like, I don't know, I think a few years ago it was Grey Goose and soda. Then now it's like Tito's and soda. So who knows what the next vodka and soda will be. So
Old Harbor and stuff.
that's the goal. So coming
That's
for you,
cool.
Tito. Yeah. But no, yeah, I think the packaging is a huge portion of it. Like, unless, you know, it's a company that's got such a good name that they can have crappy packaging, but there's very few companies like that. Like in the alcohol business, I can only think of like Lagunitas or Russian River. They have like kind of terrible marketing, but or branding, but they're some of the
Right.
biggest sellers out there. Um, Not that they're very and it's terrible per se, but it's just like it's very much hand done, I guess. That makes sense. Yeah, but I find it endearing and I like it a lot. So, and they're two of my favorite companies.
Cool,
So
yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Lagunitas are good. I like no.
yeah. But you like look at their labels and they're like pretty funny. They have like Comic Sans font and
Yeah, yeah.
like it's just like what? But it's really good
Why
stuff.
why'd you choose that? What
Mhm,
if you were to give me that about me 30-second pitch on what
mhm.
separates Old Harbor from everyone else, what do you got?
Oh man. I mean, I guess just we're actually distilling everything in house with freshly. Our gin has all the botanicals in it are fresh, like they're from the local markets. We're peeling the cucumber, we're zesting the limes, we're grinding everything up ourselves. So everything's like a lot of the bigger companies will just use extracts where they don't even do any of that. They're just buying oils or essences and adding those. Where we're actually doing that all ourselves. We're fermenting the sugarcane juice ourselves. We're, the coffee liqueur, I make it with two of my best friends, started the coffee roasting company called Coffee and Tea Collective. So it's like using trying to support local. We do a gin called 1542 where it's 100% native botanicals, and we partnered with a farm called Nopalito Farm to get the botanicals off their farm. And so yeah, it's just kind of like we're trying to. There's obviously tons of good craft distilleries out there, so there's no reason not gonna try them either. But we try and do things right. So everything we do, we try and make taste really good. We don't try and do shortcuts for the most part. So yeah,
Definitely. So like you got Chef Ramsay in there
yeah,
cutting up cucumbers and throwing them in so you can have the freshest
yep,
all possible.
yeah. Because you can easily go buy cucumber essence and oil. Like you can buy it. It's a lot less work, but it doesn't taste as good.
Right.
So yeah.
And so outside of the business, you know, life and work is a very important thing to have balanced, right? And I think it's something that a lot of people today, I think it's being neglected. I know in a way earlier podcast, I talked about how uh, there's studies that have been shown that um, the amount people work has increased drastically, and the pay and their work-life balance has
Mhm.
increased very minimal or has decreased.
Yeah.
So owning a business, obviously it's probably difficult to have free time sometimes. Well, what is your zen? What is your what keeps you at home and keeps your sanity, right?
Yeah. I mean, I like surfing. I like bike riding. I like rock climbing. So if I can get around to doing those things, that's nice. Otherwise, yeah, I like art, I like drawing, I like reading, I like movies, TV shows. Yeah, so art, like drawing things is usually one of my biggest ways to get out of my head a little bit. I love doing that.
Did you design the label then, or you like?
I didn't design the label, no. Although we're going to be releasing some. Actually, I can probably show you if I can get this to work. We're going to be releasing some whiskeys at the distillery that are using designs that are artwork I've made. So let's see. So I don't know if you can see this or not, but this is like one that I made.
Oh, that's sweet.
Oh, oops. Oh, yeah, there we go.
That's sweet.
It's like a cool little, that's going to be a one-off, like kind of whiskey release and. I think it fell off my iPad.
It's all good.
Escape button.
You're all good. I paused it. We'll be good.
Anyways, that's another one right there.
That is super cool. That's sick. I would almost get that tattooed on me. That looks really sick.
And that's another one right there.
The lighthouse.
So we're gonna be releasing probably like six release, like between 4 and 6 whiskeys this year. They'll be like tasting room only. Like you have to actually come to the tasting room and buy them there, because they're gonna be really small batches, like anywhere from like 80 bottles to 350 bottles. So just really, really limited stuff. And those are going to have kind of just weird, wacky, my artwork on them. And then the next couple of years, the stuff we've been laying down, we're release in its own bottle. Like, yeah, so we're going to have like 3 standard whiskeys we released. That'll be like kind of the old Harbor whiskeys. These are going to be more the weird one-offs, but it's kind of fun because it's a way for me to like, if I'm spending hours drawing these things, I might as well get something out of them. So put them on a whiskey label. Why not? Or a rum label or whatever. So
what's the harm? Those, yeah, they all look sick. I would definitely buy a bottle just for the art. I think, like we talked, art has a big thing to do with it, right? It's the whole reason why people buy shit half the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's super cool, man. You should like get a little fisherman going too, like a little cast line, maybe has a bottle next to him. Like
that's a good idea. Oh, I do. Yeah, it's a good call. Right now, I'm working on a sea captain with like, so having a cat on a boat was like considered good luck back in the day, especially a black cat with 6 toes.
Yeah,
that was like the luckiest thing to have in your boat. So I'm drawing a picture of like a sea captain holding like a black cat, and then working on like a naval battle. But yeah, fisherman's a good idea too. I like that.
that'd be sick. And I don't know if you would be able to. So like, I think it'd also be. I don't know why I'm just spitballing ideas at you now.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I've never seen a bottle that had a note in it, and I don't know. Because I don't know how like ink or specialties that you would have to do for that. Maybe if you laminated it or something. But I think that's a super cool concept. Special note, Old Harbor inside a bottle. Might be very difficult to do, but I think it'd be super.
Yeah. It'd have to be some sort of plastic or something that that, because ethanol eats like everything.
Right.
But you could probably make it out of some sort of silicone or plastic. I don't know. That'd actually be kind of cool. I do like that idea, actually.
Yeah, or even you could do like hidden message on the bottle, maybe like shine a light, or the glass gets heated up and it message revealed. Super cool.
Yeah, it'd be fun. I just watched 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea yesterday. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
I haven't. Tell me about
it. Classic Disney movie. But yeah, at one point it's about like this guy named Captain Nemo who drives around in this like submarine called the Nautilus, and he's just trying to destroy every like pretty much any sailing vessel that has like doesn't fly a country's flag, like it's a war machine. He destroys them. But at one point they like capture this sailor, this harpoonist, and he's getting drunk in his room and just drinking like bottles of whiskey and putting notes in them and send them out to sea. So it's funny you bring up the note in a bottle thing, just because I watched that yesterday. If you've never seen it, it's an awesome movie. It's like 1950s Disney based off like a Jules Verne novel, but it's really good. Really good special effects for that era too.
Disney Plus or Netflix or whatever.
It's on Disney Plus. Yep.
Isn't that crazy how they got everybody, right? They're like, Netflix, like, we're gonna do this. Everyone's like, I don't need cable. Now everyone's back to paying like $50 to $100 for.
Oh no. I've got Hulu, Showtime, HBO, Disney, friggin'
And they really make you believe.
Amazon, Netflix. I've
Yeah,
got
they make you believe too. It's like, oh, it's not that bad. I get all these shows. It's like, damn, that's just what cable did. And like Hulu, you got the commercials still. They're shorter. Like you watch how long.
yeah,
Well, like,
yeah,
I don't mess with it. I'd commercial free Hulu. It's like $13. I'm like,
yeah. No, I pay for the big Hulu. Might as well. And I pay for YouTube TV or YouTube as well. Yeah, I must be spending $80, $90 a month on streaming services at this point, which is so crazy.
right?
It's
Just
like
like
what we were paying for cable. But the nice thing is it's literally like hundreds of thousands of hours of content where with cable you
oh,
can't really choose what you gotta see. So
you
there's
can
that.
spend a
Plus
week.
I definitely share a few accounts with people, so I'm not paying for all of them.
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
tried to that was like the I think not to scheme, but like one of my big ideas in when I was in college was like I'm gonna open up an account, like an HBO account,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm gonna charge each person that wants to be on it $3 and see if I can
It's
make money.
not a bad idea actually.
Account.
It's funny. Yeah. Well, it's curious because yeah, I know some people like I think my Hulu account must be on like 50 devices around like between my family and houses that I've just gone to and put on their TV, and I've never had an issue ever watching it. So I'm like, I don't know if Hulu doesn't regulate that, but I mean, my Hulu account must be on like 30, 40 TVs and like
Yeah.
devices. So,
Hulu,
but I've never ever once ran into it where it's like you have too many streaming, which seems crazy, but
yeah.
I don't know.
Hulu's huge on like not giving a shit about how many people are on there.
Is that what? Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
HBO is another one. I know someone that has an HBO account. I know there's like 40 dudes that use it, right?
Really?
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, the only thing HBO will do will be like too many people are on it at one time, and then it'll be like you have
Hmm.
to wait. But like 40 people are able to access it,
Yeah,
so it's
that's
kind of
pretty
wild.
crazy. Yeah, yeah. Netflix seems to be the one that was like cracking the whip in
Yeah.
regards to that the most.
Do you think you have a show that because I know you said one of the things you like to do in your free time? Um, obviously everyone likes to watch TV, but you're invested in shows and film. Do you think there's one that like really inspires you and maybe inspired you to do what you do now, or do you think inspired you to pick up something that a new skill to try and accomplish? And why I ask this, I know I just talked to someone who watched the Queen's Gambit, and they're like, I went and
Mhm.
bought a chessboard right after that show.
I like chess. Was there a show that inspired me to do that? No, I mean my family have like most of my family like have been like business owners and entrepreneurs. So it just kind of was in my blood, I suppose. Yeah, I mean I'm obsessed with movies and TV shows. I've always been that way. Like I was actually taking some UCLA film school classes before the pandemic started, just kind of for fun. And with like the thoughts that someday I want to produce movies probably, if I ever make enough money off this to where I have some
Yeah.
spare cash to go throw out some films. But yeah, but I wouldn't say I couldn't tell you if there was like a movie that inspired me to become a distiller or anything like that. Definitely not. Although Lawless is a really good movie if you've never seen that. That's a classic one with Shia LaBeouf and Tom Hardy about moonshiners. It's one of my favorite films actually.
Okay, I haven't seen Lawless. I think the only thing I've seen about I don't even know if there's moonshiners in it. Um, it was kind of a messed up movie. Deliverance. You ever watch Deliverance?
Yeah, that's a good one.
That movie is crazy.
Wheel like a pig. Yeah,
Yeah.
that banjo chords will never go away. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
Um, there's I don't know if you've seen the show Boardwalk Empire though. That one's about prohibition. That's a great show if you haven't seen that on
I've never seen
HBO.
Boardwalk Empire. Damn, I need like a pen. You're just giving me fucking show after show.
Yeah, I can drop movies all day long.
I just got done watching, I think the last major film. Um, Shit, I wish I remember the name of it because I was on a spree of like watching Inception, The Mandela Effect, and then there's another one that's about like knowing where you go when you die. Um, and I forgot the name of it, but I was on a spree of them, and I think that week I might have had a panic attack because I'm going crazy, like all these concepts, I'm gonna lose my mind.
Yeah,
That was
Inception's a
so
cool
crazy.
one. Definitely. Gotta love Christopher Nolan. The guy's a
Oh yeah,
genius.
What? No, you said you came from family business owners. Where did you go to school at? I know you said college. I don't know if you remember if you.
Oh, I went to this little school down in San Diego called Point Loma. It's like a
Okay.
little private school right in the water there.
You didn't want
Best
to go
surf
to
school in
SDSU and go
America.
crazy and
What's that?
you didn't want to go to SDSU and go crazy and
I got into SDSU, went and visited the campus. I was like, okay, I went to Point Loma. Literally, it's on the water. Like it's
yeah.
like I lived 50 feet from the ocean. So I was like, I could either go out by state, which is, 30 minutes east of the ocean, or I could live on the ocean. I was like,
Right.
I'll live on the ocean.
Why not,
You don't
right?
get to do that. You don't get many opportunities like that in life.
What
So,
so you've always been in San Diego.
well, I was actually born in Venice Beach, raised in this town called Redlands, and then moved to San Diego for college when I was 18.
Okay.
I'm actually up in Venice right now. I split time between LA and San Diego. I'm kind of back and forth right now.
That is
Um,
a shit drive. I want you to know that. That is right now
it's
it's not
not bad.
I
Yeah.
drove for Thanksgiving. I recently drove to San Diego from San Francisco, and
Oh God.
I know it wasn't terrible though because no one's going.
Yeah.
But I could only imagine what that would have been like, providing everything was normal.
Hmm.
I hated driving through LA. I remember I had to land in LA once and get a rental car, and it took me like 2.5 hours to go 20 miles, and I was just so pissed. I was so mad.
Can. Yeah. Yeah. It definitely can. Um, if you learn kind of traffic patterns and like side streets, it's not so bad, but it takes a little while to figure all that out. And I generally, if I'm going from like LA to San Diego or San Diego to LA, I don't drive unless it's like 10 a.m. between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. That's like my window, or
Okay.
like 10 p.m. or later. Like I'm
Wouldn't
not
it?
gonna f with morning traffic or afternoon traffic. There's no way I'd like I don't plan my days to where like I need to be going somewhere before a certain time. Like I'll make sure I'm either going to get to LA the night before or San Diego the night before. I'm not going to. Yeah, I don't want to. I got places to stay in both cities. So for me, I'm happy to go there the night before and not have to deal with traffic. So
Definitely. Do you
traffic sucks.
so being you grew up in California, uh, majority of your life, right? Do you
Oh yeah.
did you try or travel a lot growing up? Do you travel a lot now, especially considering you want to release nationally, or are you still pretty secluded? I mean, San Diego's a tough place to leave. I'm gonna tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that I'm back in Michigan. Like this shit sucks. It's cold. It is cold here. It is. I don't care what anyone says. I drove by a Starbucks the other day and it was like 46 degrees outside, and all these guys were just sitting outside and just drinking coffee. You would have thought it was a summer day, 70 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are crazy. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe how fast I adjusted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, once you get used to California weather, it's hard to leave. No, I mean I love traveling. Like I love traveling. I just did a road trip from East Texas back to Venice, just for fun. But I go to Chicago. I like going to New York and Florida, and yeah, Hawaii. Yeah, I mean, that's like definitely one of the things I look forward to most about expanding outside of California is the fact that I'm gonna have to make trips to all these different states and stuff. So it's gonna. I like, yeah, I'm a huge fan of traveling. Lived in Spain for a little while, went over to Germany for a little while. So I definitely enjoy getting outside of
Oh,
California.
shit. I went to Germany and I don't know if you ever went to Kreuzberg. It might have been one of the best beers I ever had. I stayed in
Oh yeah,
Würzburg too, and Würzburg was delicious. It had delicious
nice.
beer as well.
Yeah, they make good beer in Germany. I mean, there's something in the water over there.
But yeah, well, what I thought was interesting is the pride in like their beer. You would have thought it was like each city has their own beer, right? And you would think
Hmm.
beer is like a sports team. Each city is just like
Yeah, yeah,
beer's the best. Like,
yep, yeah, like Kolsch and Dusseldorf.
yeah,
That's like probably the most well-known rivalry. But yeah, it's. I think I mean they just have. I think they actually do just grow better grain. Like I don't know the lot like some of the pilsners and things I had in Germany. I've still yet to have even when they pales in
right.
comparison in California.
Well,
So
it has to be something to do with the weather and location and like the,
mhm.
just like having that natural ability to grow something.
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, water is a huge deal in brewing and in distilling for that matter. It can completely change the profile and the extraction rates of your hops or your sugars and all that. So it's definitely a big deal. The water makes, yeah, like a lot of big breweries just reverse osmosis their water, then add the you know minerals they want. But there's something to be said, like you can't add all the minerals that are in like naturally
Right.
sourced groundwater. Like it's impossible unless you go
Right.
and like get that water sample from that brewery in Germany. You're not going to be able to recreate it. Even if you could, it probably would be too much hassle. Like, yeah, you can get the magnesium and sodium and all that stuff. You can get those levels right, but there's going to be other naturally occurring minerals in that water that's
They
just
wouldn't let you test their water at all. Get
yeah,
out of
probably not.
here.
Well, that's why they say like New York bagels are better than California bagels. It's the water. I guess I can believe for sure.
Yeah. So, Michael, what is one of the craziest things you've ever done?
Craziest things ever done?
Yeah, yeah. I always ask. I always.
Um, Running with the bulls and flip flops. That was probably one of the crazier things I've ever done in my life.
Oh shit! Did you get? So I'm assuming you didn't get hit by a bull.
No, I'm good. I'm a good runner, and I'm a good runner in flip flops too. Yeah, I my one of my buddies split his eye open, but that was from getting pushed over near a set of stairs as opposed to getting hit by a bull. Although the year I went, the guy did get his back broken by a bull. That was kind of unfortunate, but that was after the run inside the stadium. Um, so it's like you run and you end in the stadium, and there's a guy that got just kind of trampled by a bull, unfortunately. But that had been the first like serious injury in 5 years or something like that. So it's not super unsafe. I mean, people get hurt and stuff, but I think there was actually a death only a few years ago, which was the first time that happened in a long
It's
time.
kind of crazy that that just still
Yeah.
goes on, and people are like, yeah,
Hmm.
you can die.
Yeah. Yeah. The
What else?
Bulls don't run terribly fast. I mean, they run pretty fast, but it's
Yeah.
not like the commercials or the movies. They're not like
Well, they're being funneled, right?
yeah. Well, and it's like yeah, it's a I mean, yeah, it's fun. It's worth doing. I mean, before you get too old.
For sure. That sounds awesome, man.
Yeah.
I definitely want to go and watch. I always thought it'd be hilarious to put like American like football gear on and then do it.
That would be really funny, actually. That'd be
You know,
great.
do with the football. But I would be like I'd forget to tie my shoe or something and I'd just get trampled. And,
Mhm.
and that's when you hear the last of me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can hop the fences. The bulls, yeah, they kind of do like a trot. They're not like, at least when I was there, they weren't like running full bore. I don't know.
Yeah,
And then once they're past you, you're safe.
for sure. Hey, I had a great time with you on the cast. I really appreciate you telling me all about the distilling process and kind of how you came about in your business. Uh, where can people find you? Go ahead, promote yourself. There's, Old Harbor, get it out there.
Yeah, just go to oldharbordistilling.com. You can either, if you're local California, click on find and see all the shops in California and bars and restaurants, even though you can't go to them right now, that have it. And then if not, just click shop and that'll take you to our web store. We're available in 38 states. So hopefully we can ship to your state. I'm not sure. It depends on what state. I think we can, you're in Michigan. I think we can ship
Yeah.
there. There's so many crazy laws. You got to get a license in every state you're in. It's
Yeah.
bananas. Yeah, just check that out. Our Instagram's just old_harbor. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I highly recommend. I know I'm gonna get me a glass. I've never heard of Cilantro Chen, so I'm real
Yeah.
curious to see what's rocking with. But yeah, I really appreciate you coming on the cast today. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it was a good time. I'll talk to you soon.
Definitely.
Later, man. No worries.